Good afternoon, it's Monday, 21st of July 2025. I'm in the beautiful steel city of Sheffield, and I'm here the Orgreave Truth and Justice campaign are holding a press conference today, at 2 o'clock, and it's 1:10, and they've invited me along, which is a stroke of luck for me, to be fair. And I'm going to be filming that press conference for people to see, so I will be back.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. Thank you for coming to our Orgreave Truth and Justice campaign press conference on this historic occasion. We've been waiting a very long day for this. We've got a number of people on our panel, which I will introduce now. We are all activists involved in the Orgreave Truth and Justice campaign that has been going since 2012. 13 years. So to the right of me is Kate Flannery. Next to Kate is Chris Hockney. To the left of me is Kevin Horn. Kevin was one of the 95 miners arrested at Orgreave on the 18th of June and charged with unlawful assembly. And to the left of Kevin is John Dunn. John was a striking miner throughout 1984-1985. I'm first going to hand over to Kate, who is going to read out our statement.
Thank you, Chris. I was also an activist during the strike, and I was a member of Sheffield Women Against Pit Closures. So you'll all know about the massive women's movement that helped to sustain the strike. We have waited a long time for this day, and the announcement of an Orgreave inquiry is really positive news. This is an historic and momentous announcement, and the Orgreave Truth and Justice campaign looks forward to the next stages and the inquiry commencing as soon as possible. The 41st anniversary year of the miners' strike reminds us that we must never forget the importance of that great strike to defend an industry, jobs, trade unions and communities, and the fight for all our futures. We are indebted to the striking miners for their dedication to that year-long struggle that changed our lives forever. Thank you to everyone who has campaigned with us over the last 13 years for an Orgreave inquiry. It has been a long, hard and sometimes lonely journey, but we are determined, persistent people. We have been unrelenting and consistent in our campaigning. However, without the support and solidarity of the labour and trade union movement, we would never have been able to come this far. Our campaign started 13 years ago into events related to Orgreave on the 18th of June 1984 during the strike, the Great Miners' Strike. What happened at Orgreave is key to understanding what happened throughout that strike. Events related to this day can provide answers to how and why a paramilitary violent policing across mining villages and communities all over Britain was taking place throughout the strike. The injustice faced by the miners and communities has never been acknowledged by the state, and instead they have lied and covered it up. We know that the Tory government of the 1980s were directly involved in the strike while professing non-involvement. The Tory Ridley plan of the 1970s had planned for it, and the 1980s Tory government put public resources into the implementation of this plan. This was state-sponsored organisation against the miners and their livelihoods. The Tories' own archives confirm Parliament and the public were knowingly lied to, but their involvement in the strike and the policing of it has never been publicly acknowledged. Their involvement needs an inquiry. The mass media colluded with the Tories by lying in their reports about what was really happening or not reporting it at all. Their involvement in lies and cover-ups continues to this day. The raw footage that the media companies have of police attacking minors at Orgreave and other footage of police violence and harassment must be handed over to an inquiry. The 1980s Tory government planned to destroy the British coal industry and organised labour. The National Union of Mine Workers and its leaders Arthur Scargill, Peter Heathfield and Mick Magahey, and the British Labour and Trade Union movement. Orgreave marked a turning point in the policing of public protest. The right to protest should be a fundamental human right. With no accountability of policing at Orgreave, a message was sent to the police that they could employ violence with impunity. This set a culture that enabled the police cover-up in 1989 at Hillsborough, and the Hillsborough campaigners are still fighting for justice to this day. We want answers to questions about the systemic violent and lying behaviour of the police. We need to know how police officers on the ground were briefed and how that briefing came about. We need government and police papers releasing that have been embargoed until 2066 and 2071. This is of great public interest and concern, and is about a government who actively worked against its own population and handed the police paramilitary powers and destroyed an industry in the process. What is important is that due to the age and health of many miners, we quickly secure a public acknowledgement of why and what the state did to the miners and our communities. We have to have hope, and that an inquiry of full disclosure should influence the future behaviour of the state and public officials. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. If I could draw your attention, anybody who doesn't know the great deal about this, I hope people are going to educate themselves, starting with a report which we prepared last year for the 40th anniversary. It's available on our website. If you go onto the Orgreave Truth and Justice campaign website, please familiar yourself with that. A lot of this will be coming out, we hope, now that we have an inquiry. I'd like now to pass you over to Kevin Horn, who, as I mentioned, was one of the 95 miners on that day who was arrested, charged with unlawful assembly. Hand over to you, Kevin, please.
Hello. I'd just like to say that we have this chance now of wiping the slate clean so that our children and grandchildren can respect the police again. I've already lost my boys. They don't like the police at all. They said they seen me come back from Orgreave black and blue. I don't remember that, but I know I had to wait 14 months. 14 months for my name to be cleared. All that time thinking I could go to prison for life. So let's get on with this inquiry and stop the police shredding. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Kevin there referring to the fact that we are aware that Northumbria Police destroyed the boxes of evidence they held in April 2024, held it for all those years and then destroyed it just before the election of a government who had committed to an inquiry being held. Kate mentioned the support that we've had, and it's right now that we do pay tribute, so I'm going to hand you over to Chris Hodney to do that.
Okay, I'm going to cover solidarity then, solidarity now. This would need a full, like a chapter, a press conference in itself. I can only give you the flavour of the sort of things that went on. Back in 84, 85, I was part of a miner support group. There were hundreds of these groups all across the country, mainly twinned with pits, collecting food, clothing, children's items, toiletries. We worked with shop stewards committees. There were various lots of unions involved. There were branches, trade union branches, trades councils doing what they could, and it was ordinary people doing things like street collections, organising soup kitchens, organising feed-in strikers, pickets and their families. There was also solidarity at the time from abroad. We had, in the lead up to Christmas, we had, well, throughout the strike, but in the lead up to Christmas '84, there were huge convoys coming here from Europe, Eastern Europe, packed with things that I've just mentioned. There was also, at the time, solidarity from plenty of MPs who were active, going on picket lines, and also at that time asking for an inquiry. And it would have been wonderful if an inquiry had been given then. There was also, across the cultural sector, there were many benefit gigs up and down the country. Too many bands to mention, but literally loads and loads of these going on at the time. If I come back to, if I turn back to now, the support that our campaign has had, it's been very similar in the fact that we've, as a campaign, as Kate mentioned earlier, we couldn't manage without the support that we've had from the whole of the trade union and labour movement. We've spoken at countless meetings and rallies, invitations from shop stewards committees, unions, whole range of people actually keeping us in the public eye. And I'd just like to thank everyone who supported our campaign, who's come along to rallies, who's actually bought t-shirts, bought our merchandise and kept us going. As people have said, it's been a lonely journey. As Kate said, it's been lonely at times, but we've kept on going, and we couldn't have done it without the support of ordinary people and the wider labour movement. There's loads of other things I could cover, but we just don't have time here, so thank you.
Thank you, Chris. I'll just stress again, this has been, we've waited for this for so long. I mean, the enormity of what has happened in being an inquiry being announced just is huge. Many miners aren't here, unfortunately. Many women who were active during the strike, unfortunately, aren't here to see this day, and it's an absolute tragedy that we've had to wait so long, so they've missed it. To finish contributions from our end, I'll hand you over to John Dunn.
Can I say, first of all, I'm immensely proud to sit with these magnificent people and be associated with those who can't be with us today. When I heard an Orgreave campaign was being set up to demand a full public inquiry, I signed up without hesitation. I was seriously injured, arrested and framed on the picket line weeks before Orgreave. Since then, I've been trying to clear my name. I have 2 criminal convictions to this day. I have a scar in the back of my head where a copper with a truncheon took a swing at it. I'm in the bizarre situation of not being able to clear my name because, according to police records in Derbyshire, the National Police Council, I was never arrested. So I want somebody to explain to me how you end up in court being framed with 2 criminal convictions when you were never arrested. So I hope that this Orgreave inquiry and full disclosure will open the door on what Kate rightly said was happening every day throughout that strike, in our villages, away from the cameras, where the police riot at Orgreave was the most covered, even though the BBC somehow managed to reverse its footage and make us the villains. So if we can get that inquiry, not just me can clear my name, but the 11,000 of us who were arrested, the 7,500 who were seriously injured, the 200 who lost their jobs and never worked again, and the 2 innocent pickets who were murdered on the picket line can get some sort of justice.
Thank you, John. We're happy to take questions. Could I just ask if you could just give your name and please identify which organisation you're representing, if there are any. Yes.
Hello, I'm Robin Vinter from The Guardian. I wondered whether the experience of, when you think about the experience of Orgreave and the miners' strike in general and the interactions with police, when in the situation that we're in, kind of day to day, with an enormous number of protests in the UK, are you seeing anything that you saw at Orgreave that you feel like you're seeing again now?
Yes, would you like to take that, Chris?
I'm just going to say time's money. Amber Rudd, I mean, there's a big difference to the feeling and the mood of us here now to what there was in 2016 when Amber Rudd turned us down. We held our media conference then the day after was in the NUM at Barnsley, and we had a good turnout. And basically, John made a fantastic speech. There were some little kids who'd come in to that wonderful building, and they ended up listening to the talk and all the debate that were going on. Amber Rudd set a very low bar. Nobody were killed. Well, we don't know. To be quite honest, we don't know if people who were actually who were beaten up on that day ended up with serious medical conditions and may have shortened their lives. And we look now at all the demonstrations, the rallies, the peaceful protests that is going on all the way through and is happening now. I don't want to mention loads, but if you look at what happened at Sarah Everard, if you look at what's happening now in London on the Palestinian demos, if you look at what happens behind the scenes on ordinary pickets, police behaviour we were told, Amber Rudd said it's all changed, and police behaviour's changed. Basically, they are there as agents of the state, and we end up seeing it time after time after time. And we're fairly, there will be further injustices perpetrated because of the police do what they do.
I think the issue is when policing gets political, and the policing at Orgreave was politically led. I think that's an important point to make. Yes, question here.
Hi, it's Lucy Thornton, Daily Mirror. Can I ask who you'd like to see give evidence at the inquiry in the autumn?
Well, we've not got that far really. We've kind of hinted at that behind the scenes, but we've not got as far as naming names. But we do need people who were involved in leading the strike. Arthur Scargill, for example, will have a lot to say about what happened. We need people with legal brains who were also involved in the strike as lawyers for many of the miners who were arrested. We need medical people to be interviewed. Obviously the police need to be interviewed. There's a whole range of individuals and organisations that we'd like to see interviewed as part of this process, and obviously the papers of the organisations that they've been representing as well. But I think first and foremost we need to also interview a lot of the miners that were involved that day, and they can give testament to what actually happened to them.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Hi, Chris Davis-Smith from Hits Radio South Yorkshire. What are your general hopes for the timescale of the inquiry?
It's got to be quick, I'll say that, and I'd come back to the fact that so many people sadly aren't here to see this day. We're hoping, and the information that's been given is that we can possibly start in autumn. I would say there's a lot of papers that are already in the public domain, plenty of papers in the National Archives, but that all needs pulling together. But I would hope if we can get off to a start in autumn that we need justice quickly. This can't be and shouldn't be and does not need to be a long drawn out expensive inquiry like some inquiries we're seeing happening at the moment. So optimistically I'd like to see it done and dusted in 18 months, 2 years. Let's go for it.
Could I just add that the Independent Police Complaints Commission already investigated the role of police and made a massive report which is in the public domain. A lot of information from that report can be submitted to the inquiry.
Yes, please.
Hello, Danny Savage from the BBC. Kevin, you were saying your sons have no faith in the police now after what happened in those days. Even if you get the answers that you want and the information that you're seeking with this inquiry, will it make right that wrong? Or does this have a danger of almost compounding the frustration and anger that you have towards the authorities?
Well, I don't think it'll make the wrong thing right, but the thing is that my grandchildren need to respect the police. They're all we've got. We know they were terrible to us many times, every day. But they're the same police that come around when you've been burgled or whatever, or had your car stolen or whatever. They've got to be respected at some point. I don't think Met are doing very well, are they? But that's what the aim is, to get back to something normal again, instead of all that brutality.
Yes, please.
Hi, I'm Rob Parsons from the Northern Agenda newsletter. You mentioned Northumbria Police and the files that they destroyed. How concerned are you that they might not be the only organisation that's destroyed files, and there might be other files that would really help the inquiry that no longer exist because they've been destroyed?
Well, thank you, yes. What we do know, helpfully, is I've already mentioned there's a great deal of information in the National Archives already, probably enough to make all the points that we raise happened. In terms of papers being destroyed, it's outrageous that a police force who confirmed, when asked by the then government in 2016, confirmed to a parliamentary committee what papers they owned. They still owned them then, and it's since then that they destroyed them. There's an investigation going into that. It won't stop, and I don't think it will prevent the findings of an inquiry that we want. But we're very pleased to be assured by the Home Secretary, and it was said in Parliament a couple of weeks ago by the Leader of the House, that every police force, every agency who has got papers that they have kept in respect of the strike, they must retain them. And we understand from our most recent meeting with the Home Secretary, that's gone to every single police force. We're very confident there's going to be enough information out there to get the findings of the inquiry that needs to happen.
Amy Welch, ITV News. Do you fear that the real reason those documents were destroyed was because they contained information about a notorious beating? And if that is the case, how can you possibly have confidence that you are really going to get the truth that you all so desperately need and deserve?
I'll just very briefly say on that, obviously we only know what they said was in the boxes. They're doing their own investigation. We hope that that's going to be open and transparent, and that we are informed, and indeed the inquiry is informed about why that happened. I referred to the timing of it, but I can't go beyond that. We need to know what their investigation comes out with. Yes, please.
Phil Bodmer from Look North. You say you would like to see justice served. Could I ask what justice would look like? And do you think, as well as organisations and authorities, individuals should be held to account?
John, would you like to comment?
I think the best justice we can hope for is to clear the name. Remember, we were called the enemy within. We were vilified. Arthur Scargill was the most vilified man on the planet. The best we can hope for, I think, at this moment is that we clear our names. But on accountability, I think that every copper who perjured themselves, everybody who gave the instructions, especially at Orgreave, what police had to write in their arrest statements, must be held to account. Various politicians who have been part of that cover-up ongoing since then, up to and including, I can't remember how many Home Secretaries we've seen off. It's been a squad rotation system for them while we've been campaigning. But we want to know what they told the authorities to do with the papers. We were led up the garden path with the Tories, and I'm just hoping that this gives us the chance. I don't think, we'll ever get real justice, but if we can just clear our names, absolve the NUM of all the slanders and the smears, and then hopefully, it's been mentioned today, the things that are happening on the streets of Britain today, we can go a fair way to making sure that things like that stop and aren't allowed to happen again.
Thank you. Any more questions? I think we'll end the conference there. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you.
So there we go. 3 o'clock, all over. That's off to the Orgreave Truth and Justice campaign for making this happen, and moving, only announced yesterday, press conference today, and all we need now is a date for an inquiry. Let's get some answers to some serious questions.